Sharm el Sheikh on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula is a beautiful and fun city to explore on the Red Sea. I spent 72 hours in Sharm el Sheikh, and I want to share everything I did with all of you. If you don't know me already, I'm Gus and I help plan trips to Egypt, and I also lead my own group tours. You can learn more by going to my website, egyptadventurestravel.com. In this video, I'll share how we traveled to Sharm and back from Cairo, where we stayed, including a Bedouin camp in Ras Mohamed National Park, the Mövenpick Resort in Nama Bay, and the Steigenberger Alcazar Resort in Nabk. We'll also talk about food. We ate at a lot of local restaurants while in Sharm, and I'll talk about which ones we went to and which ones were my favorite. And then we'll talk about drinks as well, and where tourists can go out for nightlife and to explore Sharm el Sheikh in the evening. We didn't do any scuba diving in Sharm, but I will talk about Ras Mohamed National Park and snorkeling and sightseeing activities like the mosque and the old market. We'll also talk about safety in Sharm el Sheikh and whether or not it's safe to travel there, and transportation to get around the city. Spoiler alert, we mostly use microbuses. I would have loved to show you some scuba diving experiences, hiking, and some of the other things you can do in Sharm, but that might have to wait for another video. We took Air Cairo to fly from Cairo to Sharm el Sheikh, and the tickets were relatively affordable, only about $100 round trip. We had a delay of 1 hour at Cairo International Airport, but other than that, the trip was seamless and we had a good experience on Air Cairo. The flight was just over 1 hour. Another option is to take a bus, but at 8 hours plus for the bus ride, I much prefer flying. Once we landed at Sharm International Airport, our baggage came out shortly on the baggage claim. And for us, we already were in Egypt, so we already had our visas ready to go. But if this is your point of entry into Egypt, you'll need to purchase a visa at Sharm el Sheikh International Airport. And you probably also want to get a local SIM card. And you might even need to stop at these ATMs to pull out some local currency. But for us, we already had all of those things, so it was time to exit the airport and try to get our way into the city center. Most people will already have an airport transfer arranged either through their hotel or through their diving company, but we didn't have any airport transfer arranged. I like trying out public transportation to see if I can get that to work first. So we walked around the airport terminal and ended up exiting out onto the road. And even if I need to get a taxi instead of public transit, I find bargaining outside on the road is usually a little bit better prices than inside the airport. So here's our taxi. We ended up bargaining down to 200 Egyptian pounds for the taxi ride from the airport to Nama Bay, where the first hotel was that we stayed at. Sharm is a lot more calm, it's a lot more green, and it's a lot more clean than Cairo is, which is really, really refreshing. So here we are at the Mövenpick Hotel. This was our first stop in Sharm el Sheikh. This hotel is right at the edge of Nama Bay with beautiful views of the bay. But what's not so beautiful is right now the hotel is being renovated. We found that the experience at the hotel was decent. The room had a beautiful view. Everything that we needed was there. But I probably wouldn't recommend staying at the Mövenpick Hotel until the renovations are finished. What was the best part about this hotel, aside from the beautiful view, was that the whole property is super, super close to the heat of the action in Nama Bay. So everything we wanted to do that was in Nama Bay was within walking distance. We took a microbus into the city center and we went out for lunch first thing after checking into the hotel. This restaurant is called a Masrien, and a Masrien means the Egyptians. It's a restaurant serving Egyptian food. Their Egyptian food was spot on, service was great. We got this duck along with a bunch of salads, and everything was delicious. So if you're needing a lunch stop in the old market, I would highly recommend El Masrien. Then we walked around the old market area. It was pretty quiet. I'm not sure why there weren't many tourists there. They were saying maybe because of the conflict in Gaza and Israel, people were nervous about coming. But the old market area has a lot of shopping opportunities, and then it has the El Sahaba Mosque. This mosque was awesome. I'd never seen it before. It's a little bit kitschy because it's a modern construction. It's not historic by any means, but it's really, really it almost kind of reminds me of the Disney World Cinderella castle because it's just this fantastical creation. So we spent some time walking around the old market and seeing the outside of El Sahaba Mosque. We had on shorts, so we weren't able to go inside. Then we decided to walk from the old market area to go to a cafe that's super well known in Sharm el Sheikh. It's called Farsha Cafe. So here it is. We walked about a half hour. This is the outside of the cafe. This place is super beautiful, right on the Red Sea. The views are amazing. The atmosphere is awesome. You can get Stella, you can get Heineken, you can get cocktails, you can get food. But what really turned us off about this place, I was traveling with a male friend of mine, and they had a strict rule that they were couples only. So we actually had to sweet talk our way inside, basically. And then we got put up in an area that was way far away from the most beautiful views, because I guess they only saved those spaces for couples. But Farsha was still a great environment. I would highly recommend going back. This is what it looked like at night. Gorgeous views, really fun music and fun atmosphere, good shisha, good drinks. So definitely would recommend checking out, as long as you know that they have that rule where it's couples only. So if it's single guys or it's a group of guys, you're going to have trouble getting in. You'll need to have women in your group that make an equal ratio of women to men. Then after Farsha, we went back to Nama Bay and we stopped at Camel Beach Club, where we hung out on their rooftop having drinks and eating some delicious pizza and fried onion rings. And that was it for day one. Day 2 in the morning, we got picked up by one of the owners of Badawi Eco Campground, where we were going to stay that night, and she took us into Ras Mohamed National Park. That's where the campground is, and it's also a national park that travelers can visit to do scuba diving, snorkeling, hiking. You don't need to be staying in the park to enter. So after about a 15-20 minute drive inside the park, we came to our eco campground. This is a look at our tent. We were right on the beach. It's really rustic. There's no electricity. There's no running water. So it's definitely an experience that you need to be prepared for. But for us, it was perfect. The weather was also really nice in Sharm el Sheikh. We were there in December of 2023. It was cool at night and it was warm and sunny during the day. And this is directly out of our tent. This was our view right when we looked outside of the tent entrance. The Badawi campground had everything we needed. There was a sitting area where they served us our meals and had coffee and tea and drinks. There was a bathroom that was compost only. And this is a view of the whole entire campground from up high. So there's the tents right there. The bathroom is in the foreground. And then that building I'm zooming in on was the sitting area where we also took our meals. And there's somebody coming out of the bathroom right there. The bathroom totally worked. I never smelled anything. It never seemed gross. You just put some sawdust in the toilet when you were done going to the bathroom. And the sunset made the stay in Ras Mohamed 100% worth it. It was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in Egypt. Absolutely breathtaking. It was really nice to stay at this camp. The next day, we went snorkeling because they had an in-house coral reef. And then we had a lot of delicious meals while we stayed at Badawi. Everything was hand-cooked, Bedouin food, and it was all great. The service that we experienced was awesome. Staff were really, really friendly. And we had a fun time as well mingling with the other folks who were staying at the camp. After breakfast the following morning, it was time to say goodbye to the campground because we were going to head back into the city of Sharm el Sheikh. But before we said goodbye to Ras Mohamed National Park, we booked the owner of Badawi to take us on a safari around Ras Mohamed. So we hopped into his vehicle and we drove around the park, stopping at a bunch of different sites. Our first stop was the Gate of Allah, this stone gate that looks like it's made out of stone, but it's a human-made concrete sculpture. And then we went to a mangrove channel where our Bedouin guide got to talk to us about the ecosystem in Ras Mohamed and what makes this area unique throughout all of Egypt. We stopped at the southernmost part of Ras Mohamed, which is the southernmost point on the southernmost peninsula in the Sinai. So here's Ras Mohamed, and then here's where we were at that southernmost section. The whole experience going through the park, we spent about 3 hours, stopping at different natural formations, hiking, getting these beautiful views, walking around, and learning from our Bedouin guide. I would not miss this at all when going to Sharm el Sheikh. It's so nice to just get out in nature. After that, though, we headed back into the city to explore another area of Sharm. So we stayed in Nama Bay for the first night, and then we went out into Ras Mohammed. The third day and third night, we went to the Steigenberger Alcazar, which is a beautiful resort in Nab, which is a neighborhood that's in the north part of Sharm el Sheikh. This resort was astounding. Everything was basically brand new. The room was gorgeous. The beach was awesome. The service was great. The only thing that was a little weird about it was there weren't very many people there when we were there. There were maybe only about 100 people staying at this giant resort. But I would 100% recommend the Steigenberger Alcazar if you're going to Sharm. I'm going to be making a video just on that hotel. For dinner that night, we ended up eating at Farsha, which was about a 5-minute walk away from the Steigenberger. This local fish restaurant has branches all over Sharm el Sheikh, so I would highly recommend going. If you're in Sharm, just Google and find the one nearest you. We got to look at the fresh catch of the day. We picked out exactly what we wanted. We got to say exactly how we wanted it prepared, grilled, fried, whatever. And then they brought out our fish along with all of our salads. We got a seafood soup. We really had an amazing seafood feast at Farsha, and it was delicious. Our last bit of time in Sharm was just spent relaxing and lounging at the Steigenberger Alcazar, at the pool, and at the beach. Then the next morning, it was time to go back to Sharm el Sheikh International Airport. We got our flight on Air Cairo, and we flew back to Cairo. Only took about an hour, no delays on the flight. Everything went really smoothly, and that was it for our 72 hours in Sharm. Now, for getting around Sharm el Sheikh, I would highly recommend tourists try out local microbuses. These local microbuses are all over the place, and you just have to flag them down and they'll stop for you. You have to do a lot of negotiating with the fare, though, because I had to really use my Arabic skills to explain to the driver that I knew how much the local fare cost. The driver might try to charge you what an actual taxi ride might cost. So you're going to have to use your bargaining power, and you're going to have to try to talk them down to getting you to pay the local fare. Another option, of course, is taking taxis. We took this taxi to get to the Mövenpick when we first arrived. Just make sure you negotiate. Now let's talk about safety. Is Sharm el Sheikh a safe place to travel to? Well, according to the U.S. State Department, they don't recommend that folks from the United States travel to the Sinai Peninsula, but they do say with the exception of traveling to Sharm el Sheikh by air. So according to the U.S. State Department, they consider Sharm el Sheikh to be a safe enough destination where folks from the United States can travel there. They just recommend traveling by air. Personally, though, I've been traveling to Sharm el Sheikh for the last 12 years. I've done it by air, I've done it by private vehicle, and I've done it by microbus and Go Bus. And all of those options, I've been fine. So here you go. Level 4, do not travel except for Sharm el Sheikh by air. But like anything with safety, you have to make your own decision about whether or not you want to travel to Sharm and whether or not it feels like a good destination for you to go to. Overall, I had a wonderful 72 hours in Sharm el Sheikh. I really loved sharing what I did, where I went, where I stayed, what I ate with all of you. And I hope that you have the chance to visit Sharm el Sheikh when you go to Egypt on your Egypt adventure.